everyone. Today I'm not gonna show my face, so I'm going to actually critique some of the pictures that my friend Ravi, also a photographer based in Edmonton, so he asked me a favor where I can critique some of his portfolio. So as you can see, the first image is actually my favorite from his website. This is an image of Alberta Botanical Garden. It's very beautiful, I think, and it focuses more on the, how should I say, less about the nature, but more about the infrastructure, how it's well designed and how it combines with the nature, how it is a perfect balance together. So as you can see here, the reflection at the pool is actually very nice because it gives a sense of nature as opposed to the structure, but also it gives us symmetry, which is very good in terms of urban photography, I would say. And if you look at the style as well, the colors that Ravi chose, they are very colorful, they're vibrant, but at the same time the shadows are very prominent. So you can say that his style is leaning towards more dramatic as opposed to, let's say, bright and airy, where it's more like a fairy tale, where it's more dreamy and less contrast. So I would say this is my favorite from his website, mainly because of the balance, mainly because of the technique as well. It's very well done. The second image that he has, this one, or rather the one I liked, this one is actually nature-based. As you can see, it's in winter, I believe, taken in winter, also based in Edmonton. What I love about this picture is how there is a balance as well in terms of composition this time. So you can see that the sunlight comes from the right side, from the behind, but it's actually balanced with the trees at the background, also the wires in the front, and then there's a pole in the middle. Not really in the middle, actually. This is strategically designed to be not in the middle, and that actually draws more attention exactly because it's not in the middle. Now, in terms of the lighting and shadows, it's also, I think, very striking, very dramatic. You can see the shadows very prominent. Color-wise, it's less colorful because of the feel or because of the vibe of the morning sun, I should say, or this can also be a sunset, I suppose. But this is very well thought of because the composition is well done, but also in terms of colors, how Ravi chose to do less colors, less vibrancy. I think it works well with the situation, with the theme of the photo. Now, the other photo that I picked is actually a portrait where he captured a model, so a young lady. And then you can see here there's also a cherry blossom in front of her face. So this one, I would say this is my favorite among the other portraits, but also at the same time I have some feedback in terms of what he can improve. So you can see here that the focus, rather than the eye of the model, it's actually the flowers, or the flower buds, you can also say it. And I think in that sense, then the main subject would be the flowers instead of the model. The model is kind of like the side characters of a story, if you can think of it that way, or maybe it's more of a background rather than the actual story. I'm not quite sure if that was the intention, but one way to, if it is not, then probably Ravi should take more time into focusing into the eye of the model so that these flowers become, flower buds become the foreground. So it's more blurry compared to the actual subject, which is the model. So that's my assumption though. My assumption is that the model is the subject and then the flowers are the foreground, sorry. But the other thing that I love about this picture is that the background itself, the greeneries, are in blur. So we know that it's background and it's very beautiful. You can say it's a bokeh, right? I think it's bokeh, and it's very beautiful and well done. And the last thing I want to comment is about the colors. So currently, the feeling that I got from the picture is more about romantic, but dramatic as well. However, the green is overpowering, so we can see the green cast on top of her hair, on her skin, And I'm not quite sure if that is the vibe or the feelings that Ravi want to portray, because in terms of skin tone, therefore it's not real skin tone, it's more like green or greenish compared to real skin tone. So the way to fix that, for example, maybe he can do, so here in Lightroom Classic, you can also go to the edit and then you can add a mask where you click on the subject, or you do brush. You actually use the brush to paint over the hair, for example, or certain areas where you want to decrease the amount of green in the photo. And unfortunately, however, these are screenshots from his website, so I didn't have the raw image, and therefore I cannot edit it optimally, in a sense that I cannot edit the whole information inside the picture. Now, the pictures or the photos that Ravi shared with me through WhatsApp, so he asked me to specifically comment it on the wedding venue he recently shot. This wedding venue is very beautiful, I believe. It's very well done. The first photo that I took is, or I decided to comment on, is the stage. So, as we learned from previous photos, Ravi is leaning towards more dramatic, very good in terms of balance between composition, but also in terms of lighting and shadows. Now, about this picture in specifically, so we see that there are some flowers, but also structure. So first thing first, I think before shooting, I believe that we need to decide who is the main subject, right? When you want to shoot something or take pictures of something, then you need to decide, is it gonna be, for example, is it gonna be the sofa here, or is it gonna be the lights, or is it gonna be the whole thing? Because that determines your aperture. I mean, there are different ways to do step by step how to take a picture, but that's, in my opinion, you need to focus first on what you want to be the subject. So here, I think, as I said, I didn't have the raw image, so I couldn't find the whole information about the image, but I believe the aperture would be f11 or something, so that all details in the image will be focused. Now, I would actually add it where the main stage become the subject, in a sense that I would use that edit tools where I add masking tools, I guess. I would actually pick the background and I would purposely create lower exposure for the background so that it's darker behind, and then we focus our eyes then intentionally, or rather in that sense, we intentionally push viewers to focus in the center. And then I also can do, I guess, yeah, the background I will create darker vibes, and then the center would be brighter in that sense. Meanwhile, about the color balance, I think it's okay, but right now, the photo itself, it's kind of gloomy and dark. I'm not quite sure if that is what the client wants, or if Ravi also wants this if that particular effect. So for example, if you're aiming for more like a romantic, like fairy tale, bright and airy, then in that sense we really do need to brighten the exposure. Well, that's just part of it, but also the contrast. We need to think about it. Do we want more shadows or less shadows? Something to do with that. So we really need to know what kind of vibes we want people to feel from the picture. The second image is more of a detailed image. We see that Ravi moved a little bit to the right side, and then he took picture of the flowers, also the sofa, but also the lights. Here, the problem, I think, is that on the left side you see that there are some dark edges, which is from the wall, but it's just, for me, personal choice, but for me it's a little bit distracting in the sense that that is very dark in contrast to the curtains, to the lights, to the everything. So I would actually do a cropped image of this if it is something that can be considered. But yeah, as you can see, then the third light on the left, you will lose it. So it's up to the artistic ways that Ravi wants to focus on. Okay, I'm gonna cancel that. And then you see the flowers here. Unfortunately, there are some parts of the flowers that are very bright because of the light, but also there are parts that are very dark. So that creates inconsistency, which is fine. It's just the way the lighting was. But for example, if Ravi had a separate light, so a lighting pole, for example, he can try to trigger a flash so that there's an even light so that he can control how the light will fall on the petals, on the flowers, like that. Actually, I really like the golden bars as well, because that creates an illusion of sparkling, kind of like romantic vibes. So that's very nice in terms of the structure, very well done from the decorator. The third image is actually, rather than landscape, it's actually a portrait. This one is very well done. I really like it, but one thing that I would actually edit is the way. So unfortunately, although the structure is straight, the top though is not really straight. So there are many ways to deal with it. For example, you can crop it for sure, or you can tilt the image just a bit so that it's kind of balanced between the vertical pull and also the horizontal pull. So that's just ways to do it. However, this one, I think just by seeing it, I think that the subject is the light. So that can be tricky because that might not be what the clients want or what the Ravi wants to showcase. It might be the flowers instead. So I'm not quite sure which one is which. But if the light is the focus, yes, for sure, let everything else become dark and let the light play more role into the picture. However, if it is not, if the light is supposed to be more of a side character, so if you want to highlight the flowers instead, then you can definitely use the edit to brighten up the flowers using brush, or alternatively we can create something like a brighter exposure like this, and then we can use the brush to focus on the light and then lower the light, if that makes sense. But yeah, as you can see, as soon as I hit the exposure up to 1.65, it actually gives you a very different vibe. That's why I think it's important for both the client to convey what they want, but also for Ravi to experiment, but also to understand how the exposure, the light, also colors, how they play or give effects to photos. Now the last photo I want to comment is actually this one. This one is from the table, so we assume that there are some guests, and this one is taken from that dining table, I suppose. So right now it's a little bit hard to know who's the subject, right? Because you can see on the left side here, the stage is very, very bright and people can think, oh, that is the subject. But then you would wonder then, if that is the subject, why it's not, in the middle or something like that. Instead, we have this table, this round table in the middle. So then we think, oh, maybe this is the subject. However, again, the problem I think is that it's not focused on that. So I think the aperture could have been f16 or something, where everything is in focus, and in that sense, it's hard for viewers to, quickly feel this is a subject or this is not a subject. So that's why I think that's one thing that can be improved, in the sense that perhaps before taking this picture, we need to think prior to that whether this is the main subject and if we can draw people's attention to this table.